Yo, 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 what is going on, Kingdom Builder fam? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. No pun intended. And today I wanted to try and switch things up. I was talking with a friend, and they had asked me about, and I get this question every once in a while, but they had asked me about how do I kind of go about making content? You know, what do I find enjoyable? How do I get my inspiration? What's my process? I'm going to be honest, because of my circumstances, I am a very simplified man. And I'll take some time to explain briefly, so I don't think this is necessarily going to be a long video. But before we get started, as always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell. And of course, if you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit up the Discord. Link to that is in the pinned comment description right down below. So for me, you can probably see here for the majority, I pretty much have kind of had diverse content. Most of my genre focus is on kingdom builders because that's just the genre I enjoy very often. I have branched out a little bit here and there with, I think, most recent kind of diverse piece I covered was a top-down, third-person shooter, which I still enjoy playing. It's called Catalyst Black. But my rig just kind of wasn't really set up to produce the most optimal type of content. And then from there, mostly have been covering Infinity Kingdom for the past, a year and a half. Then eventually started getting into Rise of Kingdoms again and started producing content there. And now Call of Dragons, which is, at least as of recording this video, right, the latest kingdom builder that I've shown some interest in, really excited, almost can't wait for that to come out. And for me, a lot of the way that I kind of go about my process is, I think for myself, first and foremost, I play the game, right? Actively play. And I actively listen, I watch, I ask questions, I research, I educate myself, and then I try and play these games at every level possible, whether it's a player, it's an officer, it's a leader, it's doing a project, right? These are just to name some. And, participating, engaging in the games, and doing everything that you possibly can in them is a good way to learn the mechanics and the way that a game plays. So you'll be able to have a stronger foundation you can rely on when it comes to information and ideas that you can pull. How I can tell you my approach is when I'm looking at how I produce content for the games and then what I cover within those games is probably going to be very different than how others may look at producing content. I think when you look at games in general, there's a consistency across the sphere of content, game content, or creator content that you're seeing produced. Examples of this would be everyone is pretty much going to do progression-based content, event-based content. Progression-based content is, hey, here's me leveling up my base, right? Here's me progressing in the game. Event-based content is just how it sounds, right? It's, oh, hey, there's a new event out, or hey, I'm going to cover this event and talk about, how to maximize it. You might do things such as, PvP or individual-based content, right? Which, again, could be, hey, I'm going to go on PvP fighter. I'm going to do this commander pairing or this hero or this character pairing in game, or I'm going to use this character to do this or that, or I'm going to do these settings, right? That's kind of more of your kind of individual or PvP type content that you'll see. And for the most part, these pieces of content really cover a wide spectrum of the majority of content that is produced in these types of games. Again, just focusing on this genre as the example, or exhibit A, if you will. For me, I've just had a very different approach. If you look at my content versus probably anyone else, I want to go out on a limb and say every other content creator that is within this genre of kingdom builders, 4X, strategy, MMORTS, whatever classification you want to give it. I personally give it kingdom builder because I just think it makes the most sense and it connects the most amount of dots to what you're actually doing in these games. I like to produce content that, as I said, is very different. And that is with my enjoyment from doing things that I've done back in the day, which was, coaching teams, advising, doing analysis work, data mining for kingdoms that I was in. These were all things I did, amongst others, before I ever decided to even get to a point of, kind of running my own projects, if you will, or groups, which is basically kind of prep groups before going into a kingdom, so you can start off with a little bit more of an advantage. That's the most simplified way to explain. And then as I started getting more experience and more knowledge in doing those things, it started really changing my perspective and my approach, because I was doing some trial and error, and I was attempting different things, and that really opened up my mindset on how am I approaching the game itself, and what pieces of content do I think are important for players that they're just not getting right now, they know nothing about. And within this genre of kingdom builders, I find that the most important pieces of content, even though progression-based, event-based, PvP, individual-based content is important, no one is saying that it's not, myself included, I just do not believe that it is the most important piece of content. Right? That's not to say that I think it's worth 5% and the content I put out is 95%, valuable. And maybe the more appropriate way to put it is to say I do not believe that is the only type of important content that should be produced. That's one of the reasons I like to focus on things that have to do with what is your day-to-day experience actually going to be like, and what's factored into that when you're playing these types of games. How are decisions that are made at the top affect people at the bottom? Why are events being managed the way that they are? Why do players wonder why certain things are happening, but they just don't know because they either just haven't taken the time to engage themselves, or their kingdom isn't explaining, or their alliance isn't explaining why these things are being done? An example would be in these types of games, you might have players that get kicked out just so they can get more active players in that are donating early on. Maybe you're looking to build structures or get certain objectives done early on in a kingdom's life, and some players just have no idea why they're being removed. And this is, to a degree, somewhat pretty standard. And it's not anything against them. They can, most of the time, alliances usually will just accept them back. I hope, once they come back online. But this is just an example of some things you'll see, right? And I get questions from these players, or I'll see them posting on the official Discords, and they're just wondering, why are these things happening? And so those are the types of things I like to try and focus my content on. Even when I was playing Infinity Kingdom, I still produced progression-based content, event-based content, because it was needed, right? There is a necessity for it. But I just didn't feel that it was the only important piece of content that needed to be produced, and that's why I wanted to try and focus on really the other side, things that are just never talked about on Kingdom Builders. And that's where I get the most enjoyment out, because I'm producing content that pretty much no one else is. Part of it is because they would need to do it themselves to really learn and understand it, as I have. And then the other side of it is, you just don't know what you don't know. I think it's very important to try and stay in your lane. Right? Educate yourself enough to where you feel confident in discussing and talking about something. Don't just talk about it for the sake of talking about it. Really know what you're talking about, because then you can speak to its authenticity, and you can speak to the integrity of the topic, where you're actually exuding confidence because you feel comfortable in what you're discussing, because you are informed. So, for me, I'm never going to talk about something or or make a video on a topic that I do not know the most about, or I don't know enough about to where I feel confident enough to speak on it. That's just my kind of personal content creator integrity. For those that resonates with, awesome. If it doesn't, that's okay as well. Right. And, for me, it's never, I think the way that I look at content is it was never about me, making it big or, making a living from it. If that happens, fantastic. For me, it really started and stemmed when I started playing Infinity Kingdom, just because no one was really producing content early on, and people had just asked me, because I was writing up, informative emails and some guides here and there, and people said, hey, why don't you try making some videos? And it was really just about that. It was about just putting out quality content that people could enjoy. And I think that's really the best place to start from. It's not about looking at how you can get there. It's about looking at the steps that you take and the passion that you have to produce the content, because you have to want to do it, you have to believe in it, and you have to have a drive, some type of motivating force behind you that, that makes you be productive in putting out the content, and also importantly putting out content you enjoy and you want to put out. I love putting and talking about these things because they're important to me, and I hope by extension people that come to my channel and they watch the type of content that I put out enjoy those types of things as well, right? It doesn't matter if it's this game or that game. I am an aficionado of kingdom builders, and if you put out a game that I think has potential, I'm most likely going to produce content for it and involve myself in it. An example is, when I was playing Rock for years and never produced any content, and then I found out about Infinity Kingdom and loved how it started out, even though, at least as of now, it's teetering off a bit. But then you look at another new game, Call of Dragons, that's coming out, and I think this game even has more potential than Infinity Kingdom did, from the onset. So if you're on my channel, you will see diverse content, but you will know that I test and I play a lot of kingdom builders out. So for me, if I'm getting into a kingdom builder, it's because I actually truly believe that kingdom builder has potential. And out of all the kingdom builders I've played, I've only ever promoted 2 of them. And, I think I've hit home runs so far. Regardless of how the games turned out, the potential they had in the beginning was there, and they attracted a good audience along with other content creators as well that came on board and played. And so I'm looking forward to seeing kind of what the future brings. But I hope that at least helps giving some insight into what my thought process is and the type of content that you'll see on my channel. And yeah, so again, if there's any questions, comments, please feel free. Again, no pun intended, but you can always leave those in the comments down below. And I guess if I was to pose a question to you, do you enjoy? I would really love to hear from you all, the subscribers, people that even just come and you're not subscribed but you watch my content. Do you enjoy the diversity of content that I put out, and why? And I think that's it for me. So until next time, as always, I'll catch you later.